So after I've booked, when would we meet? What would that look like?
So normally I meet with my couples around 12 weeks or so, 3 to 4 months before their wedding date. Reason that's a good time is that's when you can start with all the legalities, and you know, as celebrants we're there to help keep you right with all that. So I will send my couples a little reminder to say, okay, you can now apply for your notice to be married, and can we arrange to meet to start to plan the ceremony. It's up to a couple really where we do that. You know, it can be in their house if we're quite close to each other, if you're more comfortable with Starbucks and Costas. I now have loyalty cards because I sort of keep them in business because I'm there so often. It's just whatever is comfortable for you really. And that's when we sit down and start to plan the ceremony. Now if a couple are really keen and they really just want to get ahead with things, then you know, by all means, if it fits them in my diary, I'm more than happy to start that ball rolling. Maybe they live far away, maybe they live abroad, and they happen to be over in Scotland for a couple of weeks. It's maybe opportune time to say, well, let's get together now. So, but one thing I always do say to my couples is that, you know, as soon as you book, whether your wedding is in 2 months' time or 2 years' time, you know, we're always kind of planning, because I'm always around for questions. I said, you know, if you're ever talking ceremony, you think you might have a stupid question, it's not going to be a stupid question because you've never done this before. So, you know, reach out. So, although the formal planning will begin around that time, it's kind of an ongoing thing, you know, we're always sort of building up to it in certain ways and certain levels, I guess.
I think that's a really important point, that you are, and you know, the support team at Fuze as well are on hand always, so they can pick up the phone or drop a message for any questions. And as you say, there is no such thing as a stupid question. And I love when you get a new question where you think, oh, that's new.
Never had that before.
Exactly, but I think for me, there is a lot to think of, and couples need to be really aware that they are recruiting, if you like, a team of experts to help them along the way. So utilise them, you know, don't sit confused or unsure, just ask the question.
The kind of analogy I use with couples is that, you know, you essentially are the designer of your day and I'm the architect. So you would draw up a blueprint and then I will construct you something, as it were.
That's lovely.
So they kind of quite like that. And, you know, and I do say, listen, the only limit is the limit of your imagination. So what do you want to include? If it's something I've never done before, you sort of go, right, okay, how can we factor that in? You know, 9 times out of 10, it's doable. The answer's very rarely ever no. It's, well, not exactly, but we could do. So there's always a sort of a solution or an alternative or a twist. But couples need to know they've got full editorial control.
Absolutely. One of the questions I get asked a lot at the office is, so the meeting that they have before they book somebody, so while they're on the lookout to find a celebrant, is with that initial meeting, what do we ask? Like, how does it run? And what I always advise them is it should be led by the celebrant. So you don't need to have any questions that you may have, you know, if there's certain things you want to incorporate, how that would look. But really it's about them leading the conversation, so they don't need to come prepared. Do you feel the same? Yeah,
I do. I actually find I'm mostly, after the initial kind of couple of minutes of, how are you? What did you have for tea tonight? Were you working today? All that sort of stuff. I kind of just go into my kind of little routine of things that, and a lot of the time I say at the end, so any questions? No, you actually answer questions you haven't even thought of, so you can sort of formulate them in your mind. But I think as well as finding out how it's all going to work, as the celebrant's chatting, you're kind of getting to know a wee bit about them as well, and their style and their personality, you know, because as you're sort of doing that, it's not quite a rehearsal, I suppose, for the ceremony, but it certainly gives you a flavour of a person's personality. So you're kind of selling yourself, I guess, in that process, as well as giving away the information.
What about rehearsals? So something, I know it's very big in America, and it would always happens if someone has a religious or faith-based ceremony. But what about if someone was to ask about a rehearsal with you?
I get the odd request for that. Actually, I've had a couple of couples from the States who have kind of wanted that. They maybe had quite an extensive bridal party, and I've maybe gone up to the venue. But I say to most couples, you don't really need one. It's one of those things from kind of back in the day, almost. You imagine you're at your venue the night before, and there you all are in your joggies and your t-shirt, and you're going to do, because people I love the question I get asked, how do I walk? And I say to couples, you walk with one foot in front of the other as if you were going to the shops. Because you think of all the weddings you've attended as a guest. Do you remember how anyone walked down the aisle? Not particularly. You're just looking at the bride's dress and everyone's outfits and stuff like that. So, I mean, really that would be the only bit that you would argue you maybe need to rehearse. Really, the script's all there. You've seen the script, you've approved it. What I do, my couples, is I do a little catch up with them the week or so before the wedding, week to 10 days before the wedding, usually just over video. Last run through the script, just make sure nothing's changed. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this bridesmaid's gone into labour, she's not going to be there. Or the best man forgot he's on holiday, or someone's ill, or whatever it might be. Confirming start time. We can do, if they've got their hand fasting ties, if they're doing that,
nice.
Do a little practice on the video, just so they know what to expect, really. And at this point, I will say this and you do this. But reminding them, I'll keep them right on the day as well. I don't expect them to be writing it down and have it all memorised for when the day comes. So, but I find that settles couples. They kind of go, right, okay. And sometimes I'll meet a bride before she comes down the aisle. Alan, I've totally forgot everything you told me the other night. I'll go, it's all right, I've not, so I'll tell you again. So, yeah, that's as much reassurance as you need. Essentially, as long as you're there, your celebrant will guide you, lead the ceremony with their experience and